So let's get into your article here, D. The article written to make people forget, but I have more faith in our listeners that they can't be fooled.
Alexander Villette, great article this morning. D, love looking back and seeing the old recruiting stories. Didn't know stuff about KW2, Gore, Parrish, and Spears. So was not fooling anybody. This was a pre-scheduled article for the latter period of July for obvious reasons. This is kind of a quiet time. So the project that I've been doing here, and this is all on CanesInSight.com, which those of you who aren't on CanesInSight.com and listen to the show, got over 1,300 on, like and subscribe, but check out CanesInSight.com. I mean, 7.5, and let's just start saying that, 0.1 post and counting. This site is the biggest Canes community on the planet. You want to talk about anything, obviously we have a great chat here. We got the show, but this is the place to talk Canes all day, anytime. You could post at any hour of the day and someone's going to respond, whether from Europe or just a night owl, who knows, but this thing is always popping, CanesInSight.com. So one of the things I wanted to do, especially during this quieter time, is go back and understand. We know that we had a decline over the last 25 years. How did that look recruiting? Because we follow recruiting so hard, and then boom, right when the class signs us on to the next class. I don't think we often go back and kind of reflect what worked, what didn't, what were the numbers, what were the trends, who recruited better, Coker, Shannon, Golden, where did they struggle, what was the issues there? So this has been an extremely valuable learning experience, and when we get through all the classes going up through the class of 21, which is the Jake Garcia, Leonard Taylor, the last Manny class, we'll kind of go over some lessons learned, because there were some very interesting trends. But starting with this one, Pete, which was the class of 2001, I thought was extremely interesting. This was the last really good class. So if you're talking about holding a standard up to compare the subsequent classes to, you start here, because this was really our last championship caliber class. You look at the numbers, Pete, as you scroll down a little bit in this article. I use these numbers for every single class so we can compare apples to apples. So these are the numbers I use, starting with 2001. 4-year winning percentage. So starting in their freshman year and then 4 years up, what was the winning percentage of the team? 88%. Obviously, they won a championship their first year. This was a prime class. Total enrollees, 20. NFL players, 13. So 13 out of 20 guys in this class played in the NFL, over 1,000 NFL games. So they weren't just getting there for a cup of coffee. They were playing a lot. 4 first-round picks, 5 day 2 picks, second, third round. At that time, it wasn't day 2, but that's how we're stacking it to compare across eras. 11 Pro Bowlers. I ranked it in terms of and Pete, just scroll down. I'm going to go through it as I go.
11 Pro Bowlers or Pro Bowls?
Pro Bowls total. I think Pro Bowlers, you had Gore, you had Sean Taylor, Kellen Winslow.
Roll probably.
Yeah, at least 3 and 4. Yeah, you had 4 Pro Bowlers. So let's start here. These are the 5 stars at the time. So first 5-star, Leon Williams, big, strong, blue chipper from Brooklyn, New York, Canarsie High School. He was a star of the class. You went up to New York to get him. This is an area I think we could keep recruiting well, because it's a city. But Leon Williams, you get him, 4th-round pick, 61 NFL games, ended up being a pretty good pro. Didn't put it all together at Miami with his size and his speed, but because some people thought, is he a D-end? Is he a linebacker? He was a really big linebacker, but ultimately was able to 61 NFL games. I mean, that's serious. That's serious. I mean, people look and say, 61 NFL games. It's so hard, Pete, to stay in the league, to have that many games as you're on the field. You're a real player. You're a real NFL player at that point. And he was that, and I think he was really, really talented. That was the 4-star of the crew. The 5-star of the crew, the only one. As you go to the 4 stars, Antro Roll, 155 NFL games, 3-time Pro Bowler. We know what's up there. Local player. You know Antro Roll pretty good. You followed his career. Watching his high school highlights. In fact, Pete, see if you can pull up his high school highlights if you don't mind. Just go to YouTube, Antro Roll high school highlights. Make sure you put the music off, because I think I put some like Young Jeezy song or something when I put these highlights up 10 years ago, because that was on CanesInSight that we put these up. But Antro Roll is an interesting one. Talk about the southern part of Florida, of Miami, South Dade, Homestead. Sean Taylor's from there as well. Antro Roll, one of the legends from that area. Big corner. Didn't have huge speed at the time, but you're just a super athlete. The question with him was really corner or safety, but it didn't matter. He was still a high 4-star type player.
You used duffel bag boys.
Oh, I did? Nice choice.
We had this discussion recently.
Oh yeah, the player circle.
Yeah,
man. So here we go. Make sure you got the sound off. Yeah, but this was our 10 years ago, I put up a lot of these old videos on YouTube on our old channel. It's not even on the same channel anymore, but I just put some whatever song I was listening to at the time, just like on my headphones. I would just put it on the highlights. Here, look at Antro Roll. This is what we need to get back to. So everyone who's met Antro Roll is a big dude, and then he's doing stuff like this. Not like, again, a 4.4 speedster necessarily at the time. He did run faster when he left Miami, as Nick West points out. He ran a sub 4.4 at the combine, and you can see him here running this guy down. But man, what jumped out to me about Roll, on top of the size and the physicality, this dude was a true all-around athlete.
Yeah, I mean, you see him playing both sides of the ball. You've mentioned that recently, how Miami just hasn't had enough defensive backs come in who play offense as well. Would have been nice for Blake Stewart.
Yeah, seriously. That's one thing you see when you go and look at these old highlights from Butch era. He was bringing in defensive backs that played both ways. Obviously, Sean
do you think that was also the era? Because you don't see as many guys playing both sides of the ball these days.
Great question. These guys are so good, you had to play them on both sides of the ball. You'd be fired if you didn't. If you're trying to win a state championship and you don't have Sean Taylor on offense, I mean, what are you doing? So I think that's part of it too, is that these guys were so good that, like, if you did not play them on offense, you were not giving your team a chance to win. Philip Buchanan, who was in a prior class, those guys were big time offensive players. So you just had, it's like Bryce Fitzgerald this year, right? You just had to play him on offense if you're trying to give your team the best chance to win. And I think Antro Roll, you saw this in college. One thing about about in the pros, he did this too. One thing about Antro Roll that blew my mind: Antro Roll played offense in the NFL. They threw him screens on the Cardinals. I don't know what his total stats were. Maybe it was like 3 catches or something like that. But Antro Roll played a little offense in the NFL, just to show you how good of an athlete he was, man. So if you're going both ways in the National Football League, you're a pretty special dude. And Antro Roll certainly was that. There you go, tricking the cameraman. But yeah, so Pete, going down the list here, shout out to Antro Roll, one of the greats. So you had Antro Roll, highly rated guy. Your top 3 recruits in terms of ranking, all these guys end up going to the NFL. So Leon Williams, NFL, Antro Rolls, NFL star. Then Orion Harris, who was a high 4-star player out of Newark, Delaware. You're going into Delaware and landing an Orion Harris. That's pretty impressive. He ended up going in the 4th round to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Didn't last long in the NFL, 20 games, but he was a solid player for the Canes. Maybe not as talented or as impactful as what you thought you might get just based on his ranking. But I mean, you in the 4th round, you play 20 and you play in the NFL, you contribute to some good defenses. That's pretty impressive. Robert Bergman from Bakersfield, California, Merle Haggard country in California. He was probably the biggest disappointment in this class. There weren't many, but he was someone you hoped would be a core offensive lineman, baseball player, punter, really good athlete. Didn't really have the size or power that you wanted. So that was the offensive line decline started a little bit. Kellen Winslow, we'll get to the story with him in a second. Actually, we'll start now. So bigger picture with this class, just going down story time. You had Butch Davis really recruited this whole class. That's why it's the best class, because this was the best class of the Coker era going forward. But really, this was a Butch Davis class. So he recruited all these guys. However, to give credit to Larry Coker, his best recruiting jobs were in this class, because after signing day or towards the end, after Butch Davis left, which was in January, signing day was in February at this time, he landed 3 NFL players and really iconic Miami players. Starting with this guy here, Kellen Winslow, who signed after signing day. Kellen Winslow, too, wanted to go to the University of Washington, which was really good at the time. Rick Neuheisel was the coach of Washington. Rick Neuheisel was a player back in the NFL. Kellen Winslow's dad, the Hall of Famer Kellen Winslow, hated Rick Neuheisel because when there was a player strike, Rick Neuheisel crossed the picket line and played. So just from like a labor standpoint, there was a lot of beef between Kellen Winslow and Rick Neuheisel. So Rick Neuheisel being the coach of Washington, Kellen Winslow said, I don't want my son to go there, period. He wanted his son to go to Michigan State. Their coach at the time was Bobby Williams, who was, I believe, the only black head coach in college at that time. So Winslow wanted to help him out. They go to do a show for Fox Sports, which Winslow was a host on. He was going to announce his commitment. He was supposed to announce he wanted him to announce for Michigan State. Winslow was about to announce for Washington, and his dad basically kind of like stopped it on live TV. It was very awkward if you saw it live. I remember seeing this vividly on Fox Sports or something like that. So really weird moment. Ended up that they went back to the drawing board. Miami was kind of hanging around the recruitment. Curtis Johnson, who ended up being head coach at Temple, I don't know where he is now, played, was
Tulane.
Tulane, yeah. Was the coach for New Orleans Saints for a while, wide receivers coach. I don't know if he's retired now or what he's doing, but he was really recruiting Winslow hard as a receiver at the time. Dad wants Michigan State, son wants Washington. Ultimately, they're like, you know what? Let's send you to Miami. That's a compromise choice, and that's what happened. The rest is history. First round pick, 105 NFL games, made a Pro Bowl. If not for his off the field demons and injuries, probably talking about a Hall of Fame type player. He was as good as any tight end we ever had. Going down the line here, Roger McIntosh from Gaffney, South Carolina, second rounder, 124 NFL games. That was a major hit at linebacker. Thomas Carroll from Lakewood, New Jersey, 4-star player. Was a little smaller maybe than he was billed. Didn't live up to the huge hype that he had, but was a good player for us in college. Andrew Williams, junior college player from Tampa Jefferson. Shout out to Cable Patel, Tampa Jefferson grad, my boy. Third round pick, 9 NFL games, but was really impactful. Of all these guys, he was probably the one that made the biggest impact on the 2001 team, which was that season because he was a JUCO guy. Scrolling down, Randy Boxell from Palm Beach. He was a teammate of Vince Wilfork. We signed Vince Wilfork the year before, tried to hit lightning twice with Boxell. Didn't quite work out. He couldn't really play. But Rashad Butler, who you got from Palm Beach Dwyer, ended up being a really good player, starter for you, third round pick, 51 NFL games, started games for the Houston Texans. Then finally, and I wanted to get to these guys as you get to the bottom. This guy was a lower 4 stars you see from these rankings, but Frank Gore, who you would think Frank Gore was the best recruit, one of the best recruits in this class, not only because of what he became, but because he ran for 3,000 yards as a senior. I mean, this guy was one of the best players in South Florida history on the field, but ended up lower ranked player for whatever reason. There were some qualification issues. People weren't sure if he was going to be able to get into school because of his academics. And, he had a learning disability that ended up working out. But Frank Gore, third round pick, what can you say? 241 NFL games, Pro Bowler, 5 times Hall of Famer. He was going to go to Ole Miss because Miami, Butch Davis, for as great as he was and as much as he did to put this class together, Butch Davis did not prioritize Frank Gore and did not prioritize Roscoe Parrish. They were buddies. They were both probably the 2 best players in Dade County, along with Sean Taylor and Antrell Roll. So those 2 were on their way to Ole Miss because Butch didn't really prioritize Gore and Parrish. When Coker came in, to his credit, the class was already pretty much done. But Gore came in and said, Coker came in and said, I'm an offensive coordinator. I'm an offensive guy. I'm not letting Frank Gore and Roscoe Parrish leave the city. Put the pressure on both those guys, ended up bringing them in, iconic Miami players. So as much as we want to give credit for this first class to Butch, and he deserves most of it, I will give the credit to Coker. I mean, he killed us down the line, as you'll see as we go down the series. But I will give credit to Larry Coker because Larry Coker added to this class Frank Gore, Roscoe Parrish, and Kellen Winslow. Without those guys, I mean, this class is nowhere near what it became. So shout out to Coker on that move.
Let's get to the 3 stars.
Yeah, they hit a lot of 3 stars in this class. Butch Davis, the best evaluator in our lifetimes, and you could see in this class here, he hit on a lot of 3 stars. So Quatrine Hill, Nick West saying he had some run with the Patriots. He was on the team. I don't know if he played in games. The only guys I included as NFL players were guys that either played in games or were drafted, or both. So I didn't see gameplay for him unless they got it wrong. If I'm wrong on that, correct me and I'll update this. But Quatrine Hill, he's not an NFL guy, but the guy was a very valuable player for the Canes, helped us at fullback. I think that was a hit out of Sunrise. His dad played in the NFL. That was a good evaluation, good senior evaluation by the staff. Sean Taylor, I mean, what can you say here, Pete? We're talking about. I
can say that he wouldn't have been a 3-star if there was if the evaluation system is what it is now.
Yeah, Pete. Talk about that because, and I'm rambling a lot. I want to make sure you're getting your comments in. Although, how old were you?
Well, listen, I remember this was 2001. I was 7 years old, so I don't. I started following recruiting when I was in like 6th grade, 7th grade, like around when the Northwestern team became, became a thing. So really that's 07, 08 class was when I started following it like
So we'll get
that.
there.
But I mean, I just know that a guy like this, there's no way that he would have been looked at as a 3-star.
You're absolutely right.
There's just no way. He obviously Gulliver wasn't playing the biggest competition in the world, but with the camp system, what it is now, I don't know. And listen, I may have some Gulliver people jump on me, but I don't know if Sean Taylor would have been a Gulliver.
Yeah,
if it was modern era too. So
well, Gulliver stunk back then too. Gulliver was actually worse back then.
They won. They were good because of him. So
and also Buck Ortega, which we're going to get to in a second. So Sean Taylor, best player I've ever seen at UM. When you really break it all down, the best football player ever to come out of South Florida, in my opinion. I think we know. Listen, what can you say about him? The one thing I always say about Sean Taylor is he died at 24. Ed Reed got to the NFL at 24. Just to show you that how young this guy was and how much he'd already done. But in terms of a recruit, he was not a big recruit, like we talked about. 3-star player. Georgia Tech, I think, was the other school involved with him. Hadn't generated a ton of buzz. He was a Killian player, good player at Killian, transferred to Gulliver, but then 44 touchdowns, which set the state record until Derrick Henry broke it like 10 years later. He was completely dominant, carried them to a state championship game. Everybody in Miami knew that Sean Taylor was the best player in the state, probably the best player in the country, but that was not reflected in the recruiting rankings. And I agree. Nowadays, you just see this guy once, and he's 5 stars on the spot. So that was it. Of all these guys, Sean Taylor's the one where you say recruiting's probably changed since his time period, because this would be a 5-star player any other era. Kelly Jennings, before we move off him, probably the best evaluation of this crew, Pete. So Kelly Jennings, first-round player, and played 91 NFL games from Live Oak, Suwannee High School. This is a North Florida school. It was interesting. Their secondary, one of the best secondaries in recent memory, they had 3 big 3 players. They had Kelly Jennings at corner from Miami. They had Jarvis Herring, who went to Florida, the Gators, and Kyler Hall, the safety that went to FSU. They had a white safety, if you guys remember, back in around this time period. That was Kyler Hall. So you had the big 3 guys, and the Kelly Jennings was actually the one that had the least amount of height of all those guys. But Butch Davis he goes, okay, this guy's 6 foot. He's got smooth feet. He's a 2-way player, a wide receiver, and a corner. He finished second in the 100 meters to Yamon Figures, who ended up going to Kansas State, being a really good player. Great student as well. So he just kind of check the 2-way ability, which we talked about earlier with Antro Roll, the track speed, multi-sport, right, with the track, and then just the movement skills at corner. We ended up focusing on Kelly Jennings and not the 2 higher rated guys who went to Florida and Florida State. Kelly Jennings, first-round pick, ended up being the best of the bunch. Buck Ortega, quarterback out of Gulliver. A lot of people don't realize he played 12 NFL games. His father also played in the NFL. He was a quarterback. He was really the only quarterback in this class, although a lot of people said he was going to be an athlete, and they were right. Ended up being a tight end in the NFL, more a special teams guy, but big athletic dude, a lot of traits, teammate of Sean Taylor. I remember when he got offered, a lot of people were like, oh, they're just doing it to bring in Sean Taylor, but both guys ended up in the NFL. Ortega, I think the mistake with Ortega was not that you brought him in because he was a good player. Maybe you should have brought him in with another quarterback. But Miguel Robede, Quebec, Canada, Miami got Romberg and Sherko and all these guys out of Canada. So they went to get Miguel Robede. He ended up being a disappointment here in Miami, but went to Canada, ended up being the first pick of the CFL draft. Brandon Sebald was a pretty productive 2-way player out of Ulster, New York. Didn't really end up doing anything really at Miami. Marcus Maxey, good evaluation out of Houston type area, Navasota, Texas. 5th-round picks, played 2 NFL games. He was a good pickup, a good evaluation by Butch out of Texas. And then we talked about Roscoe. So overall, and then Tony Tella from Houston started some games. That was the lowest rated guy. So overall, man, this is the gold standard, Pete. This is exactly what you want to win. If you want to win a championship, this is the kind of class that you need. The last Butch Davis class. It counts as Coker's class because it was a transition class, but really Butch got it there, and then Coker put it over the line with 3 great ads in Kellen Winslow, Roscoe Parrish, and of course Hall of Famer Frank Gore. So it was all downhill from here. Unfortunately, I go through the list and I say, in terms of misses, actually, Pete, I want to get to the misses too. because when you roll down, those are all the good things that happen. In terms of misses, there are 3 that I think really kind of set Miami up negatively down the road. Number 1, Chris Gamble was a 2-way player out of Dillard High School, Fort Lauderdale, who was a great receiver, great DB. He was a 2-star player, but it was like Sean Taylor. People down here knew he was a really, really good player. So he ended up, Miami didn't recruit him, even though he was really, really good, or at least didn't recruit him hard enough. Ends up going to Ohio State. And if you remember the Terry Porter flag, the receiver on that play was Chris Gamble. Really the last 2-way player until Travis Hunter, I think, as far as like doing it at that high level, was Chris Gamble. Ends up being a first-round pick to the Panthers, plays 9 years in the pros. So that was a big miss because not only do you lose a great local player, a first-round pick, but man, he killed us on the worst play in Miami history. He was the guy that they were going to. So that was a loss that I think hurt us down the road with Chris Gamble. Another one that was a little this is more for those of you who were following recruiting at the time. Miami really had a good shot at Marcus Spears and Michael Clayton out of Baton Rouge. This is before LSU really got cooking, or like right as they were getting cooking. So Miami had a great shot at Marcus Spears as being the top team in the country. Michael Clayton, they had those guys, but then LSU ended up keeping him home. That ended up being LSU's kind of foundational class. Marcus Spears, Michael Clayton, Ben Wilkerson, Marquise Hill, the late Marquise Hill. Joseph Adai was in that class as well. Andrew Whitworth is one of the best players in the NFL for a while. So that class under head coach Nick Saban ended up propelling LSU to be what they are. So those 2 losses, you didn't notice at the time, but you were really setting up Saban down the road and you were setting up LSU down the road. And those 2 entities would hurt Miami quite a bit over the years.
Yeah, Johnny Lagoon saying Marcus Spears. Really, I feel like those guys can't leave. Well, not much has changed.
But that was how it is. That's how it is now.
Yeah.
LSU was not like that in 2001. LSU had not, like, again, you guys are younger. You don't remember. LSU sucked. LSU was like Georgia. Georgia and LSU sucked in the 90s and the 80s, really. Like LSU and Georgia were not good programs like they are now. That changed around the early 2000s with Rick at Georgia and then Saban at LSU.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Remember, we got Ed Reed and Reggie Wayne from Louisiana. We got Ed Reed and Reggie Wayne. Those guys didn't go to LSU because that was before.
So you're saying it's been like us the last 20 years?
I've been saying that's our comeback for a while. But man, the years are starting to add up. Brandon's saying, I was 1 year old. This is a good listen. Appreciate you, man. Pikes Peak saying that's fact. They played midweek games against Ole Miss. Yeah, that's a part of the reason why I'm doing this exercise, man. I'm old enough and I followed recruiting at a young enough age that I saw this stuff kind of in real time. But it's interesting when you go back and put yourself in that mind frame of, we know how it is now, looking back, but like, what was it like at the time? And then what do we learn? And ultimately, Pete, I do a little series at the end of these. By the way, I'm going to do these every day. Maybe we're going to go a little long doing it, Pete. But I want to make sure we have some July content. So we're going to go all these through 2021. I'll have an article up every day on CanesInSight.com. But I always do best player, best evaluation, biggest disappointment, lesson learned. Best player, Sean Taylor. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Maybe Frank Gore, but Pete, would you agree Sean Taylor on that one?
Yeah.
Best evaluation, I put Kelly Jennings because he was a guy that ended up being a first-round pick from a 3-star. Biggest miss, we talked about some of those guys. Or biggest disappointment, Robert Bergman. There weren't that many disappointments in this class. Those are going to be that competition is going to get a lot harder as you go down the list and you get closer to some of these other classes like 2008 and 2014. A lot of disappointments coming up. But with respect to this class, Bergman, I would say was the only one because 4-star didn't play. Everybody else pretty much hit. But the lesson I learned, take a quarterback every year. You took Buck Ortega, but that really wasn't your quarterback. He was an athlete. You got to take a quarterback every year because if you don't, you're going to get stuck, which we did in this era.
We have breaking news, D. Let me pull it up here regarding something that we talked about last week on the show. Local story here. And Rivals just tweeted an update from the man himself. Teddy Bridgewater says he's been suspended by Miami Northwestern. And he said, so if I'm suspended from Miami Northwestern, I'm free to go to another school of my choice, but I'm not going anywhere. So
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, whatever.
He says that there's no real investigation going on, is what he said. He said they self-reported. So he says if it comes down to it, I will volunteer from the bleachers like I used to in 2018 and 2019 when no one had a problem. This is my last post about this BS. So,
man, well, we talked about this with Streeter from Footballville. Check that out in the YouTube. We talked about this in depth. I mean, it's a shame. This is the best year. This is the best era in Northwestern in years. And you're doing something like this. I mean, he's got to be smarter about stuff he puts out, but that's disappointing to see, man. I mean, we're not talking about crimes, like stupid stuff like Uber rides, and this is what we're dealing with. Kind of annoying. And you just hope the kids don't get caught up in it. If he's getting suspended, he can take it. You just don't want kids getting, missing playoff games and stuff like that because of this stuff. So we'll see how it goes, man. Over 1,600 on. Remember to like and subscribe to the show. Check out CanesInsight.com for all those articles. Plus, Miami Hurricane Team Store, man. Load up for the season. It's July. Now it's time to get right for the season. 20% off your first item. Use promo code INSIGHT20, MiamiHTS.com. You can also go to the store right across the street from the University of Miami. The promo code works both ways. INSIGHT20 for 20% off the first item. You got to get ready for the season. Load up. There's the jersey right there. Class of 2001, Sean Taylor. Wearing the 2001 throwback while we're talking about all that stuff. But yeah, check out MiamiHurricaneTeamStore.com and make sure you're taken care of, man. This is it's football season. Got to get ready to rock. So people are working extra here, an hour 30 minutes now with this extra segment, but we got to make sure we got content stored away. It's July, baby. We got to have the daily content stored away, man. So we'll be going down memory lane a little bit here. Can't wait to get to 2008 so we can get your perspective as a young Broward Pete studying the recruiting game.
Yes, definitely.
So like and subscribe, everybody. Appreciate you joining us. Go Canes.
Go Canes.